Not far from the highest point in Africa, Mount Kilimanjaro, are some of the lowest depths of the continent's suffering. An AIDS pandemic that has struck down millions, leaving 2 generations of orphans with no one to protect them. With war and poverty, it is a devastating mix that is killing both the present and the future of Africa. But even against this backdrop of misery, the plight of children in northern Uganda is almost beyond belief. A bloody 18-year civil war has forced more than 1.5 million people out of their homes and into crowded, squalid camps. And as many as 26,000 children, perhaps even more, have been kidnapped by the rebels and forced to fight over the years. The horror goes on to this day. These children, called night commuters, walk miles from their villages to the relative safety of the city to sleep every night to avoid abduction by rebel insurgents. Why do you need to sleep here instead of home?
Because of the war.
Because of the war?
Yes.
Each night, the children flood through these gates. They sing together, wash their hair, and do their studies. Do you do your homework here every night?
Yes.
Without parents or the comforts of home, they huddle together to sleep. At dawn, the children by the thousands wipe the sleep from their eyes and often with nothing more than rags to wear, head home again. Small children trekking in their bare feet every day just to stay alive and out of the hands of the vicious rebel leader Joseph Kony. Unable to rally enough troops to fight the government, Kony resorted to kidnapping children, brutalizing them until they obey, threatening them with mutilation or death if they try to leave. Kony's Lord's Resistance Army, the LRA, uses neighboring Sudan for sanctuary and a source of weapons. With each cross-border attack, he steals more children. It's been almost 20 years, and no one has stopped him. In the city of Gulu, Uganda, are hundreds of former abductees, children who somehow managed to escape. World Vision's Children of War Rehabilitation Center has cared for more than 10,000 former soldiers since 1995. Here, counselors work to heal both the physical and psychological wounds.
Depression is there. Withdrawal and depression is there, especially when they first come.
This truck brings teenagers just now rescued from the rebels. The other children joyfully welcome them to this fresh beginning with their anthem, God Has Saved Us. The new arrivals try to take it all in, one day fighting and dying in the bush, the next bewildered in a safe environment they cannot yet comprehend. Through counseling, music, and artwork, children once terrorized and forced both to watch and commit atrocities express their suffering.
If you say just draw anything, they'll draw their experiences in the bush. So that is a gun, or when he was abducted, or the day he escaped, or the day he was told to kill somebody. Said he's drawing himself when he was the day he was abducted. His hands were tied together like this. When somebody's being killed, everybody has up to watch and not to cry.
That's what the rebels make these children do.
Said it will make you strong.
13-year-old James tells me he is deeply grieved in his heart for all the killing he has witnessed. 14-year-old Charles describes his nightmares after being forced to beat 2 men to death with a piece of wood.
When he first came here, he used to remember. He could even dream how he killed them.
Young girls forced into soldiering must also recover from another kind of trauma.
She was forced into marriage when she was 11 years.
She was 11 years old?
11 years old.
Kidnapped at 11, Josephine was immediately given to a 40-year-old rebel leader as his 9th wife. she was repeatedly raped and beaten.
She tried to refuse him.
Yes, she tried to refuse. That's why she was beaten. And then almost every day.
Now she is an 18-year-old mother with no education and no skills. Her story is multiplied hundreds of times over. The Rehabilitation Center is a safe haven for these small souls, offering hygiene and parenting education to young mothers, and for all the children, food, clothing, housing, immunizations, and medical care. The LRA commonly uses cult-like versions of religious rituals such as anointment and baptism to isolate and intimidate these youngsters. Here at the center, prayer and spiritual counseling help deliver them from trauma. The counselors gently move children from fear and aggression to security and friendship.
We don't want them to forget the past, but we want them to come in reality with the past, but learn how to move forward.
That means coping, living peacefully, and making the transition to normal life. On this day, a rescued toddler is given to the grandmother he's never known. His mother was killed in the war. For these precious children, there are no Amber Alerts, no pictures on milk cartons. Their ordeal is not even a blip on the international radar screen. They need your help. The Rehabilitation Center urgently needs funds for housing, supplies, education, medical care, and counseling. Because of attacks on vulnerable night commuters and sexual slavery forced on kidnapped girls, among other factors, AIDS rates here are believed to be almost twice the national average. These children should not be abandoned.
It seems the whole world don't know about the suffering of the people here.
The world doesn't know.
I don't know why. I don't know really why.
World Vision urges you to write the president and your congressional representatives. Tell them the U.S. must use high-level and continued pressure on the government of Sudan to stop training and harboring the LRA insurgents, and on the government of Uganda to reach a lasting and peaceful resolution to the war, making the protection of children a top priority. More humanitarian assistance is vital to counsel and educate children, to teach job skills, to aid child mothers and gear up AIDS treatment. Long-term, the world must assist refugees to return home, support human rights and national reconciliation, and boost economic development. World Vision's Florence Lakor has comforted Uganda's lost children for years.
When I'm talking to a child, and the child was telling me how they are tortured when you try to escape, sometimes I become blank, because I had never imagined that a human being could treat one like that.
She knows the horror firsthand. Her daughter Angela escaped the rebels and returned home in August of 2004 after 8 years and 10 months in captivity. But the stolen childhood, the torment and fear weigh heavily.
In my heart, I feel pain. I always feel pain and worried.
For nearly 2 decades, Joseph Kony and his Lord's Resistance Army has abducted, tortured, and killed children in Uganda. It will not stop unless we act. They are innocent. They deserve protection and care. But instead, almost entirely unnoticed by the world, their suffering stretches across miles and generations. Now, today, we must ask ourselves when it will end, and what we are willing to do to end it.